that was heavy. I just wanted to, say that, we haven't heard enough scientists in this discussion. Just a minute, Anna. And I think about the theme, which is actually dialogues between art and science. One of the things that keeps happening when I'm working with scientists is you need to think about differences between science and technology. It's always something that's very difficult to grasp. Even for the scientists, it's in many cases, you're working with technology to do science. And in this case, some artists are working with technology to do art. And some artists are working with science to do art, which is different. But science is done with that technology. So it's sort of a bit puzzling, and I think we should, address that. But also, one of the things that I've been hearing a lot was not directly, but this is a matter of time. Paulo was saying that it's very difficult to grasp and to get a contemporary art practitioner to understand and to go into the completely different field and do something, really in it. And I think it's very much a matter of time.
Technology and science is used as a surface, not as a deep content.
So Anna, and then Kathleen, please.
Okay. I was going to say something else, but since everybody else is speaking a lot, I'm going to say both things that I wanted to say as well. You captured, Marta, what I was going to say just half a minute ago about the difference between science and technology. And I'm sure that we as scientists are, to a large extent, to be blamed for a lack of dialogue. And we probably are not very prepared to enter in dialogue with the artists. But if there is to be a dialogue, then arts, science, technology, or arts relying on science and technology has to be not only about using the technologies that scientists use, but also about understanding what is going on in the mind of the scientist and what science is about, because science is not about using technology. Science is about, among many things, but I think to a large extent about being curious and about finding new knowledge and increasing understanding of things. And that brings me on to my other issue, which is something, as a scientist who is sustaining some sort of interest in art, I'm trying to understand a bit of art, and I've been reflecting on science and art, and I see a similarity and a difference that is troubling me. And the similarity is that science today is very complicated, and art today is very complicated. You need an explanation for it. I mean, I don't understand 2% of what most of my colleagues work with at the research institute where I work. And that's the reason why we have Julio, who is a science communicator, is not there to explain to me what my colleagues are working with, but he's there to explain to the public what we are all working with. But science doesn't necessarily need to be explained because it works anyway. The aim with science is to produce knowledge. And that knowledge is going to be of some importance in society, or at least some of the knowledge anyway, even if nobody else than the scientist and the technologist understands it. Art is also very complicated and need to be explained, but for some reason art is exhibited in museums, which are places that I understand that you're supposed to go and visit and go and see the things. But then you go there and you see the things and you don't understand them, and you think, okay, I should have gone to a guided visit, because otherwise I don't get the point of the exhibition. And that difference is disturbing me a little bit because of the reason that the museum is a place you're supposed to visit and look at the things and get something out of it. And I would appreciate some comments from the artists on
that. Kathleen wants to talk. I'm sure it's interesting. So. And she's an artist, so maybe she can.
It seems quite a long time ago when I, seemed passionate and reacting to what was being said. And it was really when the issue of morality came up. And I wondered, in a sense, when artists work with biologists, and in particular, when they're working with concepts of, life and death, that in a sense they're dealing with theories that are completely concerned with some form of corruption, or corruption in thinking, or potentially some kind of moral corruption that's potentially taking place. So, I think that science is a huge moral arena, and we can't avoid, artists actually can't avoid moral issues and ethical concerns, or in a sense, artists' ethical concerns provoked when they come into contact with scientists and the work that scientists do. And I know, for instance, Paul Virilio, who wrote an extraordinary essay called Art and Fear, took a very, very strong position in relation to art and biology that rarely gets mentioned. It's like he's been excluded from the bibliography, because he looks at science historically and the content of science and the work that scientists do. And I think that science now is culture. I mean, I've been to science labs where they don't see art as having any potency culturally, but they do see the potency of science, because science is in the press every day, that policies are changed, that patents are taken out on biological materials. So the impact of particularly biotechnology and on, for instance, even in education now, young people, I teach in an arts university, but 15, 14, 15 to 16-year-olds are doing genetic research. They're doing PCR. They're gathering, they're being prepared basically for the city academies because there's a real industry and an economic base to science that art doesn't have. So I think that, I think in a way, because I used to work with Roy Ascott at the beginning of telematic theory, so I've seen these utopian visions of what art will be, and how it's going to further the dialogue, the discourse, it's going to be socially engaged, it's going to be dealing with a divided economic system. And it seems we're living in even a more economically divided world. And I think that artists are wanting to engage with the culture of science, but I don't think that the artworks sometimes that are produced are taking a strong moral, or they're not being framed within the moral framework. It's as if curators and artists are embarrassed to take a moral position. I think that perhaps we have to take a moral position.